Welcome to the Rice and Beans podcast. This episode is brought to you by ChewWorks in La Habra, California. From custom alignment to suspension work, ChewWorks is the go-to shop for driving enthusiasts. Welcome to the Rice and Beans podcast. It's nice to be with you again. As always, I'm Nate the Beans.
And I'm Jimmy the Rice.
Like I said, glad to be here for the second episode with you guys. And we have another great and interesting podcast for you. Today's topic is going to be car mods. Now, what car person doesn't love modding their car? So we're going to talk about what mods you can do to enhance your driving experience in the canyons, and we'll even touch on some track stuff too.
And that's a super important topic.
Yeah, definitely. And we're also going to talk about the difference between the mods in the canyons and in the track, because some things work on in the canyons, not on the track, and vice versa. So we're going to talk about that. So some things we're going to touch on today, for example, will be tires, what tires you might want to run and consider, brakes, whether pads, rotors, suspension work, and also maintenance, which gets overlooked a lot.
100%.
The importance of maintenance on a car that you are either canyon carving a lot or tracking, that's a big one. And a couple other miscellaneous things, maybe some tools that can help you that it might be a good idea to have, some safety things just to consider. So we felt, this is a great topic. We've talked a lot about driving dynamics and driver mod. So let's say you're already a more decent driver. You have some experience now in the canyons. Maybe you've done some track days. So now you're thinking, I want my car to be maybe a little faster, feel a little better. How can I mod it?
Right. And, this conversation is really what people have when they go to a car meet, especially
Absolutely.
on Angeles Crest. They're always like, hey, what pressure is your tire set at? What
Right.
tires are you running? What pads are you running for your brakes?
Yeah.
So now this is kind of like a rare case where one episode we combine all of the knowledge into one. But again, disclaimer, that's just mine and Nate's experience and knowledge, and your car might differ from ours.
Right. This is our opinions, things that we've learned kind of through our experiences. And also you got to consider, some things might apply more to some older cars that can that might need some newer upgrades, newer technology. A lot of the newer stuff, depending what model you get in car, might come already with optimized tires or suspensions or whatnot. But overall, in general, we'll have some good information for you guys, because at the end of the day, even a lot of modern sports cars are designed to handle more street duty. But some of us, we like pushing the envelope, even in the canyons. Or if you want to go do some track days, you might find out, wait a minute, these tires, maybe they're not the best for that. Or these brakes, wait a minute, is that brake fade? So these might be some things to consider whether you have a newer or an older car.
Right. And that's the interesting part, right? Because you need to be a good driver first. You need to be willing to push the car
Driver
first.
mod is the first thing. But, we covered that last episode. We talked about being safe up there. So, but as you get faster, as you gain experience, now you start reaching the limits of your vehicle. So you might start finding out, okay, now these tires are starting to slip a bit too much on me, or I'm getting too much heat in the brakes, or this car has a lot of body roll. How can I fix that? So we're going to touch on some of those things today.
Right. And that's the tricky part, because if you're somebody who drives 30 miles an hour or the speed limit, all these changes are still good, but not that you would notice any difference.
That's true.
If you're driving like 30 miles an hour or 40.
Just keep it stock at that point.
Yeah. I mean, snow tire versus summer tire, is there really a sizable difference?
Yeah.
So what's the first important thing that we have to talk about?
I think it's the most important mod on a car, because it's the connection between the vehicle and the road. Tires.
I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
And here's the thing though. So before we even dive deep into it, right, I have a hot take. I think that low grip tires are supposed to be illegal, should be illegal. Because when you think about it though, it's a public safety hazard. Why would you be selling non-sticky tires that can easily lose grip anywhere, really?
Are you saying I shouldn't canyon carve with some Ling Longs or Lion Hearts?
Well, to me, it almost knocks on the door of like potentially being unethical. It's like just because you can't spare that kind of dollars, you think that it's a good idea to be driving on not so good tires. I mean, you can crash and also crash into other people.
Yeah.
And finances, I just personally don't think that's a good justification for that.
Yeah. I mean, we all want to save a dollar where we can, but tires are probably the one area that you don't want to cheap out on too much. Now, there's some bargain tires that still do a good job, but you don't want to go too cheap. I always tell people now everyone's financial situation is different, but you got to keep in mind, sometimes people want to buy used tires, and man, I'm like, you have to be really careful with that. You need to check date codes, and I'll get into that in a bit. Date codes, what does that mean? Especially if you're out there canyon carving or tracking your car. But yeah, we're not talking about just commuter stuff. You're out there, you're pushing it, you're going a little faster, or even if you want to go do a track day, all these things become much more important. So is your life and safety really worth saving a few $100? So,
and also other people's safety.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. So it's something definitely to consider. So tires, there's so many options out there. It's crazy. I'm not going to make a single recommendation. I wish we were sponsored by a tire company. If you guys are listening, feel free to sponsor us. There's a lot of great options out there. So you got to think about what works best for you. But we'll touch on some basic data. We'll start off with one of the most basic things that people learn right away when they start researching tires. That's tread wear.
Yes.
So tread wear, it's what's the lowest I've seen? I think it's like 40. That would be like a straight race tire, slick.
Right.
And that goes up to what, 500 or somewhere up there? You guys can Google that or ask chat. But the average kind of canyon carving tire, I would say, is between the 200 to 300 tread wear range. What would you say, Jimmy?
Yes, it's 200 to 400.
Yeah.
Because some summer tires are actually rated 340 tread.
That's true. There's some like little oddball, ratings out there. 200 tread wear is a very, very popular tire. In the last maybe 10 years or so, that's become the go-to tread wear for kind of track and street duty.
Right, but it's leaning more towards track.
Well, now they're called Super 200 tread wear tires, and they're basically race tires, and they wear pretty fast. So you got to think about, right, I'm canyon carving this car, but is it also my daily? So maybe, and by the way, just to kind of touch on that point, the lower the number is, just like in layman's terms, the stickier the tire, but also the quicker it wears.
Right, the shorter the life it has.
Yeah. Now, I have a lot of friends run 200 tread wear tires. I run 200 tread wear tires. I'll usually get about a year out of them. That's a year of a bunch of canyon carving and maybe 3 or 4 track days. Some friends of mine might get months out of a 200 tread wear tire. So that's something to consider. What do you have on your cars right now, Jimmy?
I have the 300 tread Continental Extreme Contact Sport 02s.
That's a great tire.
Those are extremely popular right now.
Yeah.
They're a newer compound, competitor to the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S.
Yeah.
And that tire actually came out 10 years ago. So a lot of people didn't like it because it was like the older compound, less updated, even though there are some OEM options that BMW, Jaguar, and all those manufacturers do. Those are more updated.
Yeah.
But the Conti Extreme Contact Sport 02 is like the go-to choice for a do-everything type of sports car.
I would agree. And I had the 4S's before on my other car. They were good, but they didn't handle higher heat situations like that great. So, I mean, but again, it depends how fast you're going, what kind of driver you are. That's just me. I think 300 tread wear is a great middle ground for a street or even daily driven car that sees the canyons a lot. So that's a great choice in tire.
Right. And even if you don't go to the canyons, I mean, in order to have enough grip to even, launch your car from a light or even accelerate, if you have a high horsepower rear wheel drive car, you would want grippier tires.
Yes.
So I would not recommend all season tires for the majority of the cars in California.
No, all seasons are going to be a harder compound, rubber compound, and they're not designed to take a whole bunch of heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they might feel good initially, but then if you start, if you're in that zone, like, if you're up there driving, you get in your zone and you're pushing it kind of hard, then you might start feeling that car slip away from you, understeer a little bit. So all seasons, depending what car and the driver I wouldn't say they're the best choice for somebody that's, a more seasoned driver up there that you're going to go up there and push it. So 300 is probably the highest I would personally go. My car only sees canyons or track days. So for me, 200 treadwear works perfect.
Right.
I even had 100 treadwear tires before.
Wow.
Those, if I got a year out of those, I was lucky.
Right. And, there are some trade-offs with having a low treadwear tire. For example, they're terrible in the wet.
Most are, yeah.
If you have track tires or AKA 200 tread or even below that,
yeah,
and it rains in LA, good luck. Especially the Michelin Cup 2s.
Yeah.
That's why you can see the supercars crashing in the rain, those videos.
Yeah, yeah.
It's because of the tires.
Yeah, I had the Nankang AR1s before, which is a 100 treadwear tire, and they are not optimized for wet conditions. And one day we did a run up to Ojai. And what is it, Highway 33 up there, right? And all of that. A beautiful road. It was fun, but on the way back, coming down on the 5 freeway, like a thunderstorm hit out of nowhere.
Oh, no.
Man, I had to get off the freeway and take like Foothill Boulevard for 20 miles all the way home. It was so sketch, dude, in the rain. Like the car did okay, but you can tell above 40, 50 miles an hour, I was like, oh man, this is not fun. So be careful. Yeah.
So I would really say very few people can really take advantage of a 200 tread, set of tires. Most people, 300 tread, totally fine. Daily driver, commuter, do everything.
Yeah. And also the tread pattern is important. So if you look at the tread pattern, usually when you start getting to 200 treadwear and below, it's going to be a tread pattern that optimizes dry traction, right? That's why slicks are the best, because you have the most contact patch on the road. And the grooves, a lot of people think when a tire is bald that it has no grip. It has no wet grip, right? Because if you look at a slick, they have dry grip for days. The grooves on your tires or the tread is really meant to evacuate water. So a lot of these track tires, 200 treadwear and below, have very minimal tread on it, basically just to be DOT legal. But many advertise do not use in wet conditions. Oh. So when you are shopping for tires, keep that in mind.
Right. And I think you cannot talk about tires without mentioning the temperature operating range.
Yes.
Because, initially when I didn't know anything about tires, I'm thinking summer tires, 300 tread, they're only good in the dry. No, they're actually fantastic in the wet as well.
Yeah.
It's not about wet or dry, but it's more about what temperature you're operating this at.
Yeah.
So I did some research, and summer tires operate optimally above 45 degrees, I believe. Mm-hmm. So 45 degrees, that's right above the freezing temperature.
Yes.
Which is 99.9% of California weather.
Yeah, we're never, unless you're actually venturing out into the snow, you're not going to see those temps.
Right.
Yeah.
But manufacturers tend to fit the all-season tires because they're selling these cars all over the country to all, every country in the world, basically. Yeah. So they have to choose one that fits all.
Yeah, they do. And if you're shopping, for example, summer or ultra high performance summer, which is what a lot of the 200 treadwear advertised as, they usually have a note at the bottom that says not for use in freezing temperatures. So that would be 32 degrees or below that. They're like rock hard at those temperatures. So it's not like that you'll damage the tire or, excuse me, that you can't drive at those temps, but it's like driving on rocks. So you're not going to have much grip at all. So I know sometimes it snows like it did this last week and people want to go up and check out the snow. If you're going to go up in your Canyon car and you have ultra high performance summer tires, you might want to think about that because once you get up there to those cold temps, those tires are going to get rock hard. You're going to be sliding around. So something to be careful about.
Right. And on another note, if you live in a place like Oregon that does not particularly snow all that often, but the temperature is way down from California, right? Or like NorCal, way past San Francisco.
Yeah.
It's like cold, but not quite snowy. All season tire might be a better option because it operates within a lower range. It's like a wider range,
right?
But it doesn't grip as hard as a summer tire because summer tire is a specialist in that particular higher range portion.
Yeah, once they get hot, that's when they're working their best. So yeah, definitely where you live and the temperature and climate that you see is a huge factor,
right?
To consider. It's also a lot wetter in those areas that you said. So you might, if you do live in a wet area, you might want to consider whether an all season or at least a summer tire that has a very good tread pattern to get water out of there.
Right.
Yeah. Now here's another thing about tires that a lot of people overlook, Jimmy: speed rating.
Tell me more.
So I can't memorize all of the speed ratings, but usually, like, let's say you run, I'll use my tire sizes for example. So it's like a 315/30 R18, which means for an 18-inch wheel. And then the speed rating usually follows. It'll be like a Z or a W or a Y. So I believe Z is like 150 miles an hour. W is the most common, and a lot of track tires are W rated. That's up to 160 miles an hour. Y rated tires are 190 something plus, depending what they've been tested up to. Now, why that's important is if you are a lunatic like me, at times you might exceed 160 miles an hour.
Wow.
Now, don't do that on the street, but maybe on the track. Let's talk hypotheticals, right? So if your car tops, by the way, the factory tires that come in a car have to match the top speed of the vehicle.
Right.
And there's a lot of vehicles that are limited by the manufacturer and how fast they can go because of the tires. Yeah, I'll give you an example. My wife's Chrysler 300. It's a pretty quick car. It's a Hemi V8, but you hit things like 120 and like you hit a wall, and the limiter comes on. It's faster than that, but it stops you because of the tire rating. So if you've ever been in your car and you're flooring it and you're like, why is the car stopping like 130? You have a limiter. And it's usually based on the speed rating for your tire. But a lot of track tires are 160 miles an hour. W, that's the most common one. The thing is, if you have a car that exceeds 160 miles an hour, let's just say if you ever exceed that speed, it might be something to consider.
Got it.
Do I want these tires on there or do I want a higher speed rating for what I'm going to see?
Right. So you see all of this is super specialized knowledge, right? Because in the United States, we're very anal about the speed limit.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people think that the speed is like a cure-all. It's like, well, had you followed the speed limit, then X, Y, and Z wouldn't happen. Yeah. So there's no education on these details about like, the tires, the speed limit.
No, not a lot. Yeah. I mean, if you go, Tire Rack, for example, has some good technical information. They explain speed rating. You can Google anything nowadays and find information. But in general, a lot of people are really not educated on these little things. And a friend might tell them, hey, man, oh, yeah, this tire is great. for their car, and they're just like, I heard this tire is great, so I'm going to go buy it. And they might not consider these little things that, they might want to, depending on their use and their vehicle.
Right. So speaking of which, I do want to squeeze one more thing in.
Yeah.
So actually between snow tire, if your area snows heavily,
Yeah.
you should definitely have the real snow tires.
Yes.
They're the only tires that would work.
Yeah.
Right. It's like on the opposite spectrum as a summer tire. But in between all season tire and snow tire, there's actually another category that most people don't know about. It's called the all weather tire. An all season tire, it's all season because of the temperature range.
Yeah.
But it's not all weather.
Okay.
So sometimes people have this misconception of like, there's snow in the mountains. Let me just drive my car up because I have all season tires. That wouldn't work in heavier snow.
Yeah.
That might work in lighter snow.
Yeah.
But if you have all weather tire, it's sort of like this perfect sweet spot. What tires, you might ask? Michelin Cross Climate 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Those are more close to a snow tire than an all-season tire. But it's not a full-on winter tire.
Well, that's some good info there.
Yeah.
I hadn't even noticed the difference between all season and all weather.
Yeah.
So that's a great point. And that's a great point right now because like this last weekend, the mountains were just filled with people that want to go up there and check out the snow. So if you're somebody that wants to drive in the snow, maybe you live up near the mountains and you want to be up there a bit more, I would even consider like an extra set of wheels with like winter dedicated tires just for the snow.
Right. And if you just want one set, then the Cross Climate 2, which is the all-weather tire, would cover your snow and also light, dry duty. It's plenty grippy for someone driving the speed limit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have the perfect use for the all-weather tires too. Let's say if I'm taking a road trip to New York, right? I'm gonna go through so many different states.
Absolutely.
Different temperature fluctuation, different weather. And the all-weather tire can cover them all.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's so much info to consider with tires. Again, you have to think about what am I using my car for and what conditions am I seeing? Now, here in SoCal, it's a little easier for us. The weather's usually good. It's between 45 and 100, a year. So we don't see too many extremes like snow and all that. But if you do, definitely consider these things. Now, let's say you finally chose a tire that works for you. I bought this tire. It works for me. Another thing a lot of people don't think about too much, because they might only follow the manufacturer's recommendation, which usually only applies for street driving, tire pressure.
Yes.
And the effect it has in the driving dynamics of the car, grip levels, depending on what you're doing.
Right. The easier thing is check the door seal. There's a sticker telling you what PSI your tires are supposed to be at. However, that is only when it's cold.
Right.
So if it says 35 PSI, well, that's in the morning when you start your car.
Exactly.
Right. Later on, as you drive, it'll heat up. It might increase. So that's something to consider.
Yeah. So on your door jamb, on just about every vehicle, you have the recommended tire pressures, like you said, cold tire pressures for that vehicle. But that's based on if you're normal driving. You just street, highway, or whatever. Thing is, when you are, even if you're driving in the canyons hard enough, and absolutely on the racetrack, the harder you're driving your car, the faster those temps and those tire pressures are going to come up. And I've been on a few canyon runs where somebody's like, man, my car's just sliding around all over the place. I feel like I don't have any grip, and maybe they're blaming the tires. And I've been like, what's your tire pressure at? And they're like, oh, it's 45.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm like, oh my God, like they're all ballooned, right? Now, the weight of your car plays a factor in how fast you're going. One sweet spot, though, for most cars that I've seen is between like 32 and 35 PSI. I don't know like what your experience has been like with your cars to optimize tire pressure.
Honestly, I just always do factory.
Yeah.
Unless I'm on track.
Okay.
Then I deliberately let the air out because I know it's going to heat up a lot more.
Okay.
And balloon.
Well, just say you're slow in the canyons. That's all.
Oh my God. Tire pressure is something that I need to know more about. But that is super important because it changes the contact patch.
Absolutely.
the shape of your tire.
Yeah. So as the tire pressure increases, it's kind of like saying you're you're not overinflating the tire, but as the pressure increases, your contact patch gets smaller because the tire is growing taller because it's expanding, and it's pulling up those edges of the sidewall.
Right.
So you're going to have a smaller contact patch. So you're going to feel that grip go away. So what you want to do is usually lower the tire pressure by a few PSI. Now, if you're not, know where to start, by the way, this is a great thing to learn on track, right? Because you can go out, do some laps, different tire pressures, and see what works for you. So maybe testing this out in the canyons isn't always the best. If you ever do a track day, that's the best setting for that. But let's say your cold PSI is 36, which is a very common cold PSI for many cars. I would say maybe start at like 32 and see how the car feels. You'd be surprised. On a warm day, you can go from 32 to 36, 38 very quickly on a very spirited canyon drive. So then you might know, maybe you get up to Newcombs, check your tire pressure, and be like, oh, it shot up all the way to 36. Maybe the car felt good, and that's the sweet spot. Maybe you still felt it slip a little bit or understeer, and now you can maybe adjust it. Well, let me drop it a little more to 34.
Right.
And head back down and see how that feels. So it is something you have to play around with, and the weight of your car, the outside temperature has a lot to do with it. But for most vehicles, you might want to drop a few PSI to have that optimal contact patch while you're driving.
Right. And there's also one thing really niche that literally nobody talks about. Mm-hmm. So Michelin Pilot 4Ss also make a special edition called the PS4S SUV edition. It's not very common in the US, but I got it because I like to tailgate my SUV.
On the Mazda, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And also there's other summer tires that they don't say it's for SUV, but it's kind of like the similar philosophy behind it, which is that they deliberately make the sidewall softer. So the Continental Extreme Contact Sport 02, the reason why it handles so well on a sports car is because the sidewall is very stiff.
Right.
So you have a lot of steering feel as soon as you move the steering.
Yeah.
But on an SUV, no matter how performance your SUV is, it's going to roll a little bit. That just physics.
It's a lot of weight, yeah.
So the methodology behind the PS4S SUV edition and some of the other summer tires I've been testing is that they say it's for comfort and they complement the lean of the vehicle by having a softer. So when you're driving, not 100% of the contact patch is actually on the ground.
Yeah.
There's a remaining 10 to 20 that's actually like curved on the side. So as you go into the corner loading up the outside tire, the remaining 20% to 10% of that patch is actually loaded up as the inside lifts.
Yeah.
So the total area actually doesn't change.
Right.
It just is shifting from the inside strip to the outside strip now because they're anticipating for that roll.
Oh, wow.
And to me, when I'm toggling the SUV, we're really just driving the SUV fast, having a softer sidewall actually feels more intuitive to me because I don't want to move my hand and then immediately feel that stiff sidewall.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be turning the wheel past that. But maybe I can, right? Because then you're not using the suspension as much if you hold yourself off.
Yeah.
So, but as you turn, actually you found that there's a little bit more grip because the total sum remains the same.
Yeah.
And it actually makes the front and the rear feel more cohesive when they roll together and when tires allow the vehicle to roll as a whole on one side.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. And by the way, like that's why we're saying this information is kind of in general, because all the points we're gonna touch on today, they are related to each other. So for example, a car that's on the stiffer side, you might be able to go with a softer sidewall tire. You look at a lot of NASCARs and race cars have these huge sidewalls. The cars are so stiff that the sidewall is almost acting like part of the suspension and absorbing a lot of the movement and whatnot.
Right.
On a softer car, you might want that stiffer sidewall to get better feel and steering feedback. So, we're just putting some general info out there. But again, depending what you're driving, it's some things you might want to consider. So, hey, maybe you just informed some SUV toge guys out there.
Yeah. The X3M, some of these performance SUVs.
They're fast up there. I've encountered a few. I'm like, man, this soccer mom's really moving up there, huh?
Yeah. You have a Macan.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, though. Even though technically you could fit 200 tread tires on any car, doesn't mean that you want to do it because your suspension might not be able to handle it. Yeah. 200 tread tires or even 40 tread tires, those are designed for track use for a car that is seriously designed for track performance.
Yeah.
If you fit that on your roly-poly SUV, it might really roll over because the suspension can't handle it. It might trip over.
Yeah, I mean, it does put more of a load on things like bushings and other suspension parts because the car's seeing a lot more grip. So, yeah, all of those things are something to definitely consider. So, those are some points on tires, just in case anybody out there was kind of wondering what some of these numbers mean, tread wear, speed rating, and things like that. So we would just say consider all of those things because tires are going to be the number one thing that affects your driving experience.
Yes.
You can have a fast car with a good suspension and some crappy tires will just ruin how that car drives. And you can have a stock car with body roll and all this stuff, and the right tires can make that a fun, fast, engaging car. So tires, number one thing.
Right. And you should be calculating how fast you should keep track on how fast you use those tires.
Yes.
Right. For my Miata, I literally kept track. It's 8 good vibes a set of tires.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So PS4Ss or even Conti Sport 02s on my Miata is like 3,000 miles for a whole set of tires.
Wow, you're really going through tires there.
Yeah. So I'm thinking how many good vibes or how many ACH runs can I even afford?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So whenever the dealership says, your tread is running low, you should consider changing them because you don't know when they're going to go to zero.
Oh, that just means they're race slicks.
And I was like, trust me, I know because I go by how many good vibes that I've gone to.
Yeah. We should have how some people have a oil change sticker on the windshield. You should have like how many times you've been to Good Vibes. They just check it out. You're like, okay, I'm at 8, so I got to change my tires soon.
Oh, yes.
That's what. Okay, so now we got some good tires. We're going faster. We got a lot of grip. Now I got to stop.
Oh, this is a whole nother rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And of course, I want our listeners to know that this is only surface level information.
Just surface level information. We encourage everyone to do some research, look for stuff specific to your vehicle. A lot of people are not on Facebook anymore, but there's a lot of good like track groups in there and many that are model specific. Like I'm in a few Corvette track groups and there's a lot of great information in there because now you're talking to individuals that drive the same car as you. So now you know, hey, this tire works, this brake combination works, suspension works. So that's kind of like the new version of forums. I'm sure forums still exist somewhere, but I would say look for a group of dedicated track people with your specific make and model to get like the best information like tailored for your needs. But brakes have gotten a lot better on modern vehicles versus, 15, 20 years ago. But even then, most brake pads and fluid are meant for street use. Yes. So you want that cold stopping, right? Street, you want to be able to stop on time. But now when you're pushing these higher speeds, maybe repeated braking, now you're putting a ton of heat into the braking system.
Yes. And I would even say that it's criminal for, obviously, we're going to dive into the types of brakes, right?
Yeah.
Semi-metallic is more advanced than your regular brakes in an economy box.
Yeah.
But above the semi-metallic, it's the full-on metallic track pads, which is what I run for all of my cars.
Yeah.
And I would say that, let's say modern BMWs, a lot of them are above 400 horsepower.
Yeah.
You have a 500 horsepower car with only semi-metallic brakes. Get out of here.
Yeah, or a lot of cars have ceramic, which God. I learned that lesson many years ago. with some ceramic pads, they do not like a ton of heat, and they are scary when they fade. Now, we'll get into rotors in a bit because usually rotors handle most things that you throw at them. Your pads are really going to dictate how the car stops for the most part.
Right.
So like you said, many pads are semi-metallic. So they're usually a combination of, they can have some carbon fibers in it, iron, ceramics. So they can be a different mix of different metals. Many cars nowadays are ceramic from the factory because people don't want dust on their wheels and they want quiet brakes. So, check with your manufacturer, but don't be surprised if you have ceramic brakes. Now, the car might feel great and stop great on the highway or on the street, but especially if you're on the racetrack or if, you're having some fun on Upper Big Tahunga or something like that, and you're doing some repeated high-speed braking, you might be like, whoa, why do I feel like my brake pads are made out of glass? That's happened to me before. So you mentioned semi-metallic. A lot of race pads are full metallic pads.
Yes.
That's why you sound like a freight train when you're coming to a stop.
Yes, but it also signifies that you're better than everybody else. It's like the sound of masculinity and dominance.
I'm a track guy. Yeah. You know what? They're going to start making pads that are loud on purpose.
Oh my God.
It's just so everyone thinks, oh, that guy tracks his car.
Right?
No, they're just loud pads.
Yeah. So the OEM pads, honestly, like some people pride themselves for not even braking all that much. They're like, oh, I don't need the semi-metallic. I don't need the track pads. Like I rarely brake in the canyons. I'm like, whoa. You just don't drive hard enough.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
When you're charging into a corner full speed, you tell me that you don't brake? You barely brake. Come on.
Yeah. Now, we're talking steel brakes, not ceramic brakes.
No.
Like carbon ceramic brakes that the really high-end supercars have. We'll touch on it in a bit right now, but most cars have steel brake pads, right? You have your rotors made out of iron. They can be 1 or 2 piece, and I'll touch on that in a bit. But, the pads... that's the thing you got to consider. If you want more stopping power, there's always, you got to give up something. And with more track-oriented pads is going to be dust. You're going to get more dust, and they're going to be noisy, especially when cold. So you got to be ready for that.
Yes, because they only operate well within the higher temperature range.
Yes.
Kind of like the summer tires example.
Yeah. Now, if you have like a more modern, higher-end car, it might come with pads that can handle some track duty. So check with your manufacturer. Some vehicles come with track packages. You might have bought that and you might not have to upgrade your pads or your rotors, and good for you. But a lot of us, it's a great upgrade to have. Now, also you got to look in when you do buy a track pad, that manufacturer, they have heat ranges too. I run EBC pads. I've run Hawk in the past, Rebeso's race pads, and they have all kinds of different numbers for the same design of pad that can fit your car, but it's going to depend on your use and what temperatures their cars are going to see. So not all like track and race pads are going to be suitable for a canyon car.
Right.
Because you're not going to see hardcore race racetrack temperatures either. So you want that middle ground, right? A track pad that will have enough cold bite. So on your way to the canyons, you're not killing yourself. But when they're hot, they're working good. So that's one thing that you want to check in with the manufacturer too. And so not every race pad is like good to have.
Right. So on that note, the top of the top.
Yeah.
Carbon ceramic.
Carbon ceramic, yeah.
Those are tricky.
Yeah.
So if you spec them right out of the factory from, let's say, BMW or Porsche, and it's like 9,000, 10,000, that's actually relatively okay, like affordable. But
that's like cheap. Yeah.
It's pretty cheap, but it's expensive when you go to replace the rotors.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. $20,000 for a whole set.
Yeah. Usually the cheaper ones are 8,000 to 10,000 per rotor, and they can be up to 20 for like, the crazy hypercars.
Right.
It's insane. Also, usually you still have to change the pads on those cars for track use. So those pads are still mostly designed for street use, even though they're high-end brakes. But if you're going to see track duty, you'll wear through those pads really, really quick. So there are track options for those cars as well. And you need to be careful because it's not like steel brakes. If you damage the ceramic rotor, like you're done. They have to be replaced.
Right.
And they're not measured in thickness either. Like regular steel rotors, they're weighed. So if they're under a certain spec, they need to be replaced. So they do last forever with the right pads for the application. So definitely look into that if you do have ceramic carbon brakes.
Right. That's why a lot of the seasoned track people, canyon drivers, do not use ceramics, carbon ceramics, because it's very expensive to replace. It's just not worth it. And any rock that can get inside of your wheel and bounce off of the rotor and damage it, boom, instantly, that's a $4,000 per corner loss.
Yeah, honestly, they're usually on these high-end cars because people are paying that much money for the car and want to say that's on the car.
Right.
But for those that buy those cars to actually drive them on track, usually many of them prefer, or even if you want to call it a downgrade, but they switch them to steel brakes.
100%.
Yeah, like I love the new ZR1. If I had the money to buy one, I would get the steel brake package.
Same.
Because that's going to handle everything I throw at it. It's street, and it's still going to handle on track. So steel's still the way to go.
Right.
In my opinion.
Which is like the biggest irony, right? People who don't drive hard, they, let's say get a 8 Series 4-door Grand Coupe, and then they spec it with like carbon ceramic. And they just drive it to work. It's like, do you need that? Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Why does that car need that kind of brake?
Yeah, and then they faint when they hear the price to replace them. They're like, man, you should have just gone with a steel rotor, $600. Now I got to spend $10,000 on a rotor.
Yeah.
So
another thing, also the carbon ceramic rotor brakes.
Yeah.
They have very strong initial bite. They do stop really quickly, but the modulation for trail braking is also a very small window.
Yeah.
Even pro drivers actually struggle with modulating the ceramic brakes.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do also with the way the car's designed and the brake bias and all that. But yeah, definitely another thing to really think about. Now, as you're getting faster, you're braking more, you're getting more heat into the braking system. A lot of times this gets overlooked, brake fluid. A lot of people just leave their brake fluid in there for years. On some of my street cars, I've been guilty of that. But most of the times when people experience brake fade or failure, it's because they cooked their brake fluid.
Right.
Yeah. So a lot of cars come with like DOT3 or 4. So you really want like a high-end synthetic DOT4. I think all the DOT4s are synthetic. Or if you're a little more hardcore, I would just say go to a good track fluid, like a Motul 600. The best of the best, and I don't just say this because I run it, but it is actually the best you can buy is Castrol SRF.
Yes.
That's what it's not cheap. Since COVID, it's pretty expensive. It's like between $60 to $80 per liter, but you can leave it in there for a year or two and not worry about it. Good stuff.
And the thing is, you have to constantly change the brake fluids.
Yeah.
Ideally, every 3 months. I may have done it every year, but at least I do change them.
You can usually get away with it once a year. If you're doing track day, some guys do it every track weekend or every other track weekend. That's why I love Castrol. If the SRF, if you're going to spend a little more money, you can go a whole year, even doing track days without needing to bleed the system. But yeah, if you're using like a regular DOT4, I would definitely at least every 6 months, probably just flush it, just quick, easy little brake job. But yeah, at least 6 months. If you're going to the track every other track day, for sure. And then when it starts looking dark, it's like, hey, time to put some fresh fluid in there.
Right. Wow.
So don't overlook that. It's so cheap too, and it goes such a long way.
Right. And in regard to the rotors, right, I have heard so many seasoned track guys say that drilled rotors and slotted rotors are kind of like a scam.
Good point. I almost forgot about that. Slotted works.
You think?
Yeah, I've experienced that. Slotted rotors. There's even like some top companies like Alcon that make race brakes and stuff like that. They even have what's called like a J-hook design. So it does help to get some of the gases that are coming off the pads at those high temperatures and some of that pad dust. It does help evacuate that. But drilled rotors are just for looks on steel rotors. Guaranteed, if you track them, they're gonna crack eventually. If they don't crack, then you're just not fast enough. But if you're a fast driver, you're gonna crack drilled rotors.
Got it. Well, I've also heard from the same guys that the two-piece rotors are also kind of like a unnecessary bling bling.
Yeah, that's more like dedicated track car stuff. I mean, it's less rotating mass, so it does affect the way the car handles. But now you're talking about when you're at 9, 10 tenths and you're trying to get every second out of the car and the track, then yeah, that's anywhere you can lose weight, especially rotating mass, it's going to be big. Your average Joe probably not going to notice a difference.
Nowhere near that level.
No.
Right.
Yeah. And usually for those who don't know what a two-piece rotor is, the middle part, known as a hat, is usually aluminum. And then the iron rotor bolts onto that. And it does save a lot of weight. But they usually are quite a bit more expensive.
Right.
Yeah. But for the average canyon carving guy, it's not going to really need that.
And I remember you were also saying about the suspension.
Yeah. That's another great point.
Let's talk more about that.
Yeah. Everybody thinks they need coilovers or they need a better suspension or whatnot. So again, every car's different. How new, how old is your car? Most cars, though, do benefit from better shocks, better springs. So just general info, that's going to help control the car and its movements, how it handles bumps. So every car is going to be a little bit different. Coilovers give you a little more control. Most of them have adjustments for rebound and the dampening on it. So again, we can't be here all day. That'll be a good seminar that we can set up for later, right? So people can learn about suspension, how to make those adjustments. But yeah, if you maybe have an older car that has a lot of body roll or that doesn't handle bumps too well, then some upgraded shocks and springs will help again with that. My caution would be going too stiff. So a lot of people go like race suspension, full stiff on the car. And we talked about this last episode a little bit. The canyon roads, they're not these perfectly smooth racetrack roads. They're going to be bumpy. They're going to have imperfections. So you don't want an overly stiff car.
No.
It's really easy to hit a bump, a dip, and lose control because the suspension has no give on the vehicle.
Right. Yeah. I would say always stay with your stock car a little bit longer. Learn the car.
Absolutely.
And then learn which area of the car that you want to improve for your particular style of driving.
Yeah.
Don't just be like, let me get the Miata, boom, like coilover, sway bar, this. And it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'll use myself as an example. As much as I've driven my Corvette in the canyons, I didn't get coilovers till like a year and a half ago. So I spent like 5-6 years. All I did was upgrade the shocks on the car and sway bars. And the car felt great. So a lot of people just think I have to upgrade it to be faster. That's not necessarily the point. A lot of sports cars have pretty decent suspension already. And you'll be surprised how much of a difference just tires and brakes alone will do.
Right.
And so you might not need to automatically go to coilovers or upgrade stuff like that right away.
Right. Well, especially like suspension is such a tricky thing to talk about because there's
Yeah.
so many variables.
Absolutely.
That needs to be a seminar, not on a podcast, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be here all day. Then it's model specific. What I will say though is many cars do benefit from upgrading the sway bars. Like your Miata, that's a really popular upgrade on it because they do have a little bit of body roll, as you know. So having stiffer, bigger sway bars does help control that body roll, meaning that more of that energy is translated to the tires instead of being spent with the body rolling around. So it does make for a much better driving experience.
But I would tell you, Nate, the fact that I have a 6-pack is because I'm handling the G-force due to the body roll.
Holding yourself in the car.
Yeah. So I
It's
think
a good ab workout.
I might lose my abs if I don't have that exercise on a daily basis.
Yeah. You know what though? That one of as we get into like some of these more miscellaneous mods you can do, one is actually seats. And right now that you said that, it reminded me a lot on like the Corvette. The stock seats suck. You slide around everywhere. They don't have very good bolstering. And I would go around corners and I was using like my thigh against the door to kind of hold myself. And I felt like I'm doing ab workouts, and it takes away from the driving experience because you're spending all this energy on trying to hold yourself in your seat versus feeling what the car is doing.
Yeah. I mean, your butt is the connecting point. You feel the G-force, you feel the turning and the rotation through your butt.
Yeah.
So some people are like, oh, I'm too tall for the Miata. I mean, some people are indeed too tall.
Not me.
But little did they know that if you use aftermarket racing seats, you are able to actually drop it lower in the cabin. So there's a lot of adjustability. And that's like what, like a couple $1,000 to buy a new seat? Way cheaper than...
Yeah, I mean, it depends what you're shopping for. There's a lot of options out there from a couple $100 to maybe $1,000, depending. Also depends, do you want a race car kind of looking seat or do you want something more OEM? So things to consider. A lot of modern cars do have like airbags integrated into the seat. If you are buying a newer car, I would say spec it out with competition seats. A lot of cars nowadays offer competition seats. So they're going to be usually thinner. They're going to have better bolstering. I know sometimes if you're a bigger person, it's not the easiest to fit into them. So you got to kind of test them out. But they usually do a better job of holding you in the car.
Right. And the OEM seats are never that good. Until you get into Porsches. Porsche seats are absolutely amazing. So the one thing that I absolutely hated about my Miata are actually the seats. There's no lumbar support. It's literally just a wire with like a whole bunch of cotton inside.
Yeah.
No support, right? And if you're not comfortable in a car, you don't want to drive it because your body hurts.
Yeah.
Especially from, a lot of the places in the morning going to ACH. It's like a whole hour of commute before you even get there to start driving. My body couldn't handle it, right? Yeah. So there's the longest time I thought maybe I need to buy another car because this car is so uncomfortable until I thought of the seats, which I don't know why slipped my mind. It's like, is it more expensive to buy a new car or is it more expensive to just simply buy a new seat for my Miata? Obviously, I'm going to go for the seat.
Yeah. I mean, seats go such a long way. Like, it's just something that you don't really think about sometimes. But when I'm a taller guy too. I'm 6.5 feet tall. So I'm not going to fit in most cars. In my Corvette, I put in a dedicated aluminum racing seat. And I put different mounts so it's as low as possible in the car. But man, when I first drove the car in that seat and the way it just kind of hugs me and held me in, I felt faster. I mean, I'm sure I was faster because now I'm feeling what the car is doing instead of my body moving around. So it might sound funny if someone says, well, having a good seat will make you faster. No, it literally can. Because now you're feeling what the car's doing and you can approach its limit versus your butt sliding around everywhere.
Exactly.
So yeah, the seats can go a long way. And there's a lot of little things too that you can upgrade, depending what car you drive in the cabin of the vehicle. For example, I think that if you drive a manual transmission, having a good shifter, man, goes a long way.
Oh yeah.
I've been in many cars where the stock shifter is like super long, or I drove one friend's car and I felt like I was shifting with like a broom handle, you know? So I like a shorter, short throw shifter closer down to the console. Again, this is what's cool about modding your cars. You can pick things, right, to personalize the experience for yourself. But having like something like a good shifter on a good seat, that just can make the drive so much different and much more enjoyable.
Right.
Now, just really quick, some things that we want to throw out there that's important to have is maybe carrying around a small toolbox, if you can, in the car, maybe with a few simple ratchets and sockets, a screwdriver. That can go a long way if you ever suffer some kind of little small, repair you have to make, a small failure. That can go a long way. You've had a flat before in the mountains. That can happen.
Oh boy.
So I tell people, if you can, maybe a tire inflator. They have cordless ones nowadays that even work as power banks. You can get some cheap ones that just plug into a cigarette lighter. So if you need to air up your tire, you have that. Or even a simple tire plug kit for like $10. If you catch a nail or something, can get you home.
Right. So my lesson from that, right?
Yeah.
What happened was my wheel actually got damaged.
Yeah.
It was actually warped. And the wheel hub also got damaged. It was a pretty big boulder that I hit.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as simple as fixing it, but the Miata did not come with a spare. And so my lesson is that I really should have purchased a wheel just on the side as my full-size spare.
Just to have one. Yeah. That's a good idea.
And now I do have it. So I think you couldn't go wrong with that. I mean, emergencies still happen.
Yeah. Like a plug kit usually for nails and stuff, which you don't, in the canyons, if you have a tire failure, it's going to be, like you said, you hit something and there's no plug that's going to fix that. But there have been, recently, I remember there being people that were throwing nails on Angeles Crest Highway on purpose.
What?
Yeah, and they had posted it in that Facebook group. People were doing that, throwing stuff on the road for people to get flats on purpose. So you never know. It's always good to be prepared either way.
Wow.
And as someone who has also gotten stranded up there myself, I blew a clutch line on the car, which sprayed clutch fluid onto my exhaust, and it caught fire.
Wow.
And it was only because I had a fire extinguisher that I saved the car. So I would highly recommend, if you're doing track days, if you're in the canyons a lot, to carry a small fire extinguisher. There's a lot of companies that have brackets that can bolt to the seat or somewhere inside of the vehicle. If you have a roll bar, they have setups for that. You never know. You can have a small fire that can take out the entire car. So I always preach to people, they're cheap, $30, $40 will get you a decent little extinguisher. Not a great idea to have in your car.
Right. And also, like, if you have an Apple Watch or the latest iPhones, that can be helpful too, because you have the satellite function. So that just in case of emergency, there's like crash detections, there's satellite. You can call 911 from the top of the mountain.
Yeah. I mean, that time you got stranded up there, luckily you were in an area that had a bit of a signal and you were able to call me. But other than that, yeah, you might have to wait for somebody to pass by, and that's if they want to help you out.
Right.
That or it's a long walk home.
And thank goodness at the time I still had the blonde tip. So it looked more friendly than I am right now. But
you were sticking your butt out a little bit as cars came to see who helps you or what? Yeah, and you know what? And because when I got stuck up there, it took me 6 hours between breaking down and getting home. And I know you were up there yourself for a few hours. So I tell people, throw a bottle of water in your car, maybe a snack, when you in the morning, if you're going to get some gas as you head up the mountain, just buy a snack or some water to have in your car. So like, if that were to happen to you, at least you have something to eat and drink while you're up there.
Oh, that's definitely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we covered quite a few areas, I think, that can be very helpful to our friends, in the canyon carving community, and even those that do some track days. What do you think, Jimmy?
I think we can go on and on. I mean, this is like a continuous,
it's never ending. Yeah.
you know, all this knowledge is years of accumulation.
Yeah.
Every time we go up to the mountains, every time you go to the track, you talk to somebody, you learn something new.
Absolutely.
Tires, oils, fluids, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Even the snack is like you have to be stranded once to know, okay, next time what to do.
Yeah.
So how can you possibly cram years of pro experience into one episode?
Yeah. Even, I mean, we mentioned maintenance earlier, you know, and some of the things we touched on have to do with maintenance because you want to be checking your tires. You want to look at your brake pads, see how much life you got on them. But yeah, just things like making sure your radiator system has enough cooling in it, that you have enough oil, checking for any leaks, just all of those little things. Like, you know, you never know what can happen when you're up there. So just checking on your car, being on top of maintenance goes a long way to making sure that you get home from your trip up to the mountain.
Yes, and make sure you change your engine oil every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, not the 10,000 miles that some manufacturers recommend.
No, that's just a selling point, man. Yeah, if you're driving hard all the time, 3,000 or even less, like if you're seeing a lot of track time, I don't push it past 5,000. Even on my street cars, the Jeep 300, 5,000 miles. Doesn't matter what the oil indicator says, I change the oil. But that's just me.
Right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these manufacturers, they literally want your cars to fail. Then
They need to
buy a
sell
new
more.
car.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'll say, just go on YouTube and look at I watch many like mechanic shop shows and stuff on YouTube. They'll all tell you, even dealership mechanics don't listen to the 10 or even something crazy like 20,000 mile oil changes, that they just want to sell the car to people. Oh, I don't have to touch the car for 10,000 miles, 20,000 miles. No such thing. Change it.
You know, BMW is even more cringe. They said that their transmission fluid is lifetime guaranteed.
You know, Jeep says the same thing because it has the ZF German transmission. It's at 100,000 miles now, and it's due for a tune-up. I'm going to do changing the transmission fluid. So definitely, unless you want to buy a new trans, change it.
Right.
Change the fluid.
Just remember this, nothing is lifetime.
No, not at all. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Not with cars.
And you know what? It's not just about the frequency of the oil change. It's also about the type of oil that you use depending on how you drive the car.
Yeah.
I recently learned about this too, right? Because the dealership sometimes defaults to like a 20 weight oil. And you can actually see that from the numbers. It's like 0W20. So the first number, what is it? 0 versus 5.
Well, the first number, which is followed by a W, is the winter rating or viscosity, followed by the hot. So the lower the number, the better it's going to flow in colder temperatures.
In California, do we need that?
No, my experience has been that, I run a 1550 in my car that from the factory came with a 530. If you look at the handbook for most vehicles, the manufacturer actually suggests thicker oils depending on the use that the vehicle is seeing.
So what would be like a universal hard driving in the mountains weight?
You know, I tell people at least a 40 weight.
At least a 40
Yeah,
weight.
because most cars for a long time, most cars were like 5W30 was like the go-to. Now it's 5W20, like the Hemis come out a lot, 520. But a lot of those engines have had issues because it's such a lighter oil for the duty that they're seeing.
It's like watery.
It is, yeah. So like, for example, my Hemis that call for a 520, I'll run like a 540. And I've had zero issues. They don't tick, nothing. Corvette, you know, it's seen a lot of RPM. I'm only driving it Canyon track, so I run like a 50 weight oil. So again, it's up to you guys. Check with your manufacturer. But the more temperature that your car is seeing, the more load that it's seeing, the more that oil is going to break down and it's going to shear. So you might have poured in a 20 or 30 weight oil, but guess what? After a few 100,000 miles, 100 or 1,000 miles, not 100,000 miles, it's going to break down to a much thinner oil. So most cars that call for a 30, I would at least go up to the next grade, which would be like a 40. Most cars here in SoCal, a 1040 full synthetic, your choice. Don't. Most people are like, oh, would you run Mobil 1, Valvoline, or this? Oh, they're all good. They're all good. Most of them will get the job done protecting cars, no matter what you're doing, as long as you get the right viscosity for your use. So what I've seen for a lot of people is a 40 weight, whether it's a 0 or even a 5W40, works pretty well.
Got it. So the 5 is a little bit thicker on the start versus a 0.
That's the winner weight. Yeah. So a 0 would give you more range for colder temperatures. But if you really want to nerd out on oil viscosity, and if anyone wants to do more research, the bigger the spread between those numbers, the more viscosity index improver the oil needs for it to cover that range. So the more of that the oil has, the faster it'll break down. So whenever you can tighten up those numbers, for example, a 1040 versus a 040, it's going to hold that viscosity for longer.
Got it. Wow.
So just a few things to consider.
I think the dealership defaults to a 0W20 also for emissions, fuel efficiency purposes.
Yeah. And, there's people that, they take their street car, they go do a track day, and then they're like, they come off the track after a session. They're like, why is my oil pressure so low? And well, that oil is really hot and it just thinned down way too much. So having that thicker oil in there, especially if you're doing those type of activities, just going to give you that much more protection.
So can I say that for the majority of driving enthusiasts in California, 5W40 is like the golden spot?
Yeah, I can see a car that will go wrong with that. Most vehicles out there, that'll do just fine. A lot of modern sports cars, actually, like I know the Corvettes have been doing this. I'm not sure if Mustangs, but they'll tell you, the manufacturer themselves, it might come with a 20 or 30 weight oil or 40. And they'll say, if you're seeing track duty, use a 50. Like the new C8 Z06 actually runs a 550 oil that I've used myself. So manufacturers they're realizing, hey, people are tracking our cars more. And so they are now suggesting these thicker oils as well. Now they'll tell you, well, for the track, maybe you can run a 50, but on the street, go back to a 20 or 30. Well, they're only saying that because the thinner oil helps them reach their mileage numbers, the MPG numbers that they're trying to hit as a manufacturer. But if you can run a 50 weight oil on the racetrack, beating the crap out of the car, come on, you can't run it on the street. So if you can run a track weight oil, it'll more than likely be fine being in there all the time.
Got it. Wow.
Yeah.
And you were also talking about like the altitude and all of that pressure stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people wonder, like, why does my car get so hot when I run up the mountain? So you might, let's say you do, your main run is up to Newcombs, right? So from La Cañada up to Newcombs. Well, you're going uphill most of the time. You're putting a lot of load on the car. Going up, if you're going fast enough, higher PMs, you're putting a lot of heat into the system, into the cooling system. But as you go up in elevation, the air is less dense. So there's less air to get that heat out of the cooling system. So your car will run hotter as you go up that mountain. And you're usually, you're pushing pretty hard going up there. So being on top of your cooling system and having it maintained is crucial. Making sure it's topped off correctly. You got a good thermostat in there and all of that.
So let's say for BMW, right? You can check a box to choose the high cooling system package.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely check that.
If you have an option for an upgraded cooling system, that's a must. If you're going to hit the canyons or do a track day, you're going to want an upgraded cooling system.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's also the difference sometimes between the, not sometimes for sure, between the M2 and the M240i is that a full M definitely has a cooling system in it.
Yeah. A bigger radiator, usually better fans are the way to go anytime you can increase the cooling capacity of the car. And also that's why a lot of people they're like, you might notice if you pay attention to these things, your car gets pretty warm going up the mountain. But when you're headed back down to La Cañada, you might be driving just as fast, but the car doesn't get as hot. Well, why? Well, one, there's less load. You're going downhill. And two, the air quality is improving, so you got more cooling capability. So, yeah, just little things. And as you get advanced, as you drive more, as you start to nerd out and pay attention to these little things, they make a difference.
Right. And just in case one of these things do go wrong, going back to the being stranded topic, I remember you also mentioned that we need to bring a power bank.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Sometimes I'll even have like a tablet, a fully charged tablet in the car that I can connect to my phone and charge it if I need to. That works as a power bank, or just having a power bank. Earlier I said some wireless tire inflators also work as a power bank. So it's a great idea to have just in case your phone dies or anything up there. You know, you can still charge it and have your phone with you.
Got it. Good to know.
Yeah, definitely. Learn from experience, man. I've gotten stuck up there, so I know what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, Nate, that's a lot of stuff that we talked about today. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the tip of the iceberg. You can do a whole episode just on each topic, but just hopefully, you know, our listeners got some information that they can use. And as always, we just want to enhance everybody's driving experience, whether canyon or track.
Yes, definitely. So hope you guys enjoy listening to this episode. And our purpose for doing this is to keep you safe on the road so that you can better enjoy this hobby that we devoted our whole lives into.
Absolutely. So as always, just a reminder, Rice and Beans is produced by Sociology of Everything and supported by ChewWorks in La Habra. Again, thank you all for listening to us today. We're looking forward to the next one, to be with you guys again really soon. And remember to always have fun and drive safe.
And this is Jimmy. I'm the Rice.
And this is Nate. I'm the Beans.
See you next week.
See you, fellas.